It was on this day, October 16th, 2021, that I finished Magician's Gambit by David Eddings, narrated by Cameron Brierly, who's a really good narrator, and I seriously highly recommend the audiobooks if you're doing this series because he is so good at doing narration, and it is hard to convey just how good he is. So part of why I'm zooming through these books is just how he reads it. It's addicting. So just saying, he's like the #1 voice actor ever in my life. Out of everything, any audiobook, any movie, any TV show, animation, he's the best voice actor I've ever heard. He's really good. So seriously, if you read these through the audiobook, they're really good. I just want to get that out of the way. Alright, now, I don't have notes to, like, go over, per se. And I don't have, like, a non-spoiler and spoiler list to go over, per se. So, I'm just going to, like, ballpark some non-spoiler things, and then in the spoilers, what we're going to do, I took notes when I started reading this book. Well, I took notes around chapter 10? I don't actually know the chapter numbers. My thing doesn't tell me. I just hear it. They're not marked. So, that's a thing. I know it ended on 26, maybe 27. But I don't actually remember which chapters are what. I just listened to the story in, like, a line. So, somewhere around there I started taking notes while I was going. Either side comments or thoughts or predictions or, oh my gosh, this was so cool moments kind of thing. So we'll go over those in the spoiler section. Non-spoilers. My favorite characters are still my favorite characters. Nothing has changed. I love Mr. Wolf. I love Aunt Pole. I think I like Mr. Wolf a lot more now. My latest observation in this is that Aunt Paul reminds me of Mary Poppins in a way, and I think that's part of why I like her. She's like the not mother figure who has magic, and she's like she's such a great figure, I guess. That was a thought I had when I was, like, listening to one of her, like, side comments, or when she was talking, can't talk about that, but she was talking to someone, and I was like, she reminds me of Mary Poppins, and it was a weird thought, so I wrote it down. But, again, I still love her. I love Mr. Wolf. Again, I'm not using their real names because spoilers, but that's all that needs to be said. I love them so much, I really do. But what I can say is that as of this book, I actually have grown attached to, like, almost all the characters. I say almost, because there is a character I hate. We're getting there. Oh my god. I had some rants. The first, like, 5 chapters of this book, I was worried. I actually thought that I was gonna, like, get upset at the book for a bit. Just because of a character. It's fine now. I was worried at the beginning. It's all we need to say there. So, aside from that character, and one character that's so new I can't really give an opinion on, I've grown really attached to all the characters. I think I complained about Silk a few times. Maybe I mentioned that Silk was, like, a little bit flat as a character, but I like him now. I've grown to like him. So, he's definitely growing as a person. All the characters are, like, growing as they're going through the journey. None of them are really static characters. They're all around. And I like that. So, seeing, like, each of them, like, develop or grow individually. Some of them still probably have a little bit to go, like Barak. I listened to the audiobook and I still can't say it. What does that mean for the people who read the physical book? It's Barak. He has, like, maybe a little bit of growth to go through, but he's adapted a little bit to the party. So I just love seeing, like, how they change and develop as they're going on this journey. So I've grown attached to all of them. My favorites, though, are still Aunt Paul and Mr. Wolf. Yay. This is the third time I've done this recording, so I'm already forgetting what I have said, what I haven't said. What I haven't said, that I said in one of my other takes, that I was stupid on, was that this is my favorite of the 3 books so far, by far. Like, it's very clear and definite that I like it more. Like, the first book was, like, mysterious, like, normal life, and then sudden change, and I really liked the sudden change. Also, I remember exactly where I was listening to when that change happened in that book. Like, I could describe to you the exact place I was standing when Mr. Wolf was like, I'll take Garion to the next city over. Seriously, I can describe to you the exact place I was standing. It was in Chicago Basin in Colorado, on the way to Hanging Lake, by a marmot with these rocks, and by the waterfall. Anyway, that's like what kind of stood out in the first book. The second book was like, the first book was like more action, more finding out stuff. This book was great. I love it. So like this book, like the party's gathered, we're actually like talking about the prophecy actively and talking about the different elements. All the characters are like learning together, and all the abilities are like working together with like Hadar and them. Mandaralin. There we go. Mandaralin. And it's still like a journey story. I talked about that last time with like how I can see how people don't like journey stories because they could be monotonous. This one went different. There was actually fights I was concerned for a bit. There was a scene I was really concerned for a bit that I did not see coming. There's a theme here. I never see anything coming in this. But again, the journey in this like fluctuated so much, and we met so many people along the way in this one. It's really good. So, last one we had like flashes of it with like the dryads and stuff, but like this one's good. So, I can definitely say I like this book the most. And the intensity's just going up with each book, and a lot of series do that, and I love that this one's doing it. It's just, we're scaling up the heat. It's coming. This one got a little intense. Garion's like, man, the main character's learning. It's just the general theme is everyone is like changing as characters. What else? Non-spoiler wise, I love the prologue. Like the prologues in each book. The prologue in the first book like gave you the whole overarching picture of the world and kind of the important things to know for the upcoming story, i.e. the gods and the orb and a girl with white hair in her lock. Silver hair in her locks. Just saying. They made that very clear right at the beginning. They give you a prologue that's like, this is probably going to come up in the book, and it does come up in the book. The second book's prologue, I cannot tell you most of what happened in it. I do not remember. I should probably re-listen to it, but I remember like a tiny part of it coming up. This book's prologue, though, definitely came up in the book, but it is very interesting. It was like something separate from the other 2 prologues that I like didn't expect to hear about, but like it really gave some context to just like what the gods are in general and that stuff, and also explained something that came up later. So, very interesting. Do like the prologue. And at the end of each book, it's not quite an epilogue, but they do like a 2-sentence lead into the next book. And the 2-sentence lead into the next book is that Garion finds out there's powers greater than sorcery. I don't know what that means. Sounds interesting, though. So, prologue and epilogue covered. Do you have anything else? Another general thing, I guess 2 general things about this book. They're not complaints, they're not praises, they're just things I feel weird on. For some reason, like, exchanges of kisses in this book are really weird. And I mean, like, platonic ones. I don't know. It's weird. It's, like, very willy-nilly a lot of the time. So, Snedra just kisses everybody. We're just not gonna question it. I guess that's just her thing. A lot of kissing old men. Pole kisses, like, also kisses everybody. It's weird. So, I don't know. I just noticed after a while that, like, so many happened. I was like, what is going on here? And then the other thing, along the same lines, but not nearly as much, is this book was a lot more blunt about, like, it's a sin to think of women lustfully. That was, like, a whole theme right there. It's sin. And so, it was very out and loud about, like, just in general, like, lust in the world. And then what Garion feels about that. It's kind of funny. I'll admit, it's a little bit funny, but I definitely cringed on behalf of Garion a few times. It's a bit oof. So, it's another thing that stood out to me that is non-spoiler. Do you have anything else? I guess I have two more things. One, the Belgariad would be freaking amazing in D&D. It would be really good in D&D. Could someone make this a D&D campaign with a little bit of differences? Like, imagine a D&D campaign that has a prophecy that your party needs to follow. Like, that's really cool to me. Right now, I don't want to get too off topic, but I do want to say this. Right now, I have a character named Iwindil, and this is in my main campaign. In this campaign, we make our own clans, and we have our own background, and it's a different world than the actual D&D lore world. And right now, Iwindil is in this point of my storyline, right? But I actually planned out his life till his death and past his death. So the DM and I are working out how to get him to follow that path, but sometimes he strays from it for a bit and comes back, but that's okay. So in a way, he has a prophecy, like, we know this will happen. There's, like, 2 events down here that will happen, which means we have to not let him die, which is the whole thing, but following that prophecy has been a lot of fun. I like the idea of having a whole campaign doing a prophecy, kind of like this series does. So, in general, this would be an amazing D&D campaign, or any RPG campaign. This would be an amazing movie. This would be an amazing game to play. Just in general, I love this world and how it developed. So yes, very much excited for that. And then the other thing I was going to say, this is not new, is that there's, like, a list of things that make me love characters. And Rye Slyness is high up there. And there's so much of it. Not only from the main characters, but from, like, characters we'll meet for a minute. Just, like, with a wry smile. He smirked and winked, and we're just like... It's entertaining. I don't know why. I don't have any explanation behind it, but you give me a character that's like, smirk, smirk. I know something you don't. Wink, smirk. He said with a wry smile. I don't know why. I always love that, no matter what book it is. It's entertaining to me. So, there is that. And that is basically most of what I have to say non-spoiler wise. So spoiler wise, get right into this list. The first thing I noted was Zadar has Torak's body, because I did not know that. That was like a reveal early on in the book, and I was like, oh, he has a body, and that's why the volcano exploded. I remember in the last video I was like, why did the volcano explode? There's the answer. It's because Zadar moved Torak's body as a vulture? ? Some bird took his body and left, but the power that goes around his body is so strong that it caused the volcano to explode, which is scary. But, like, Zadar had to move the body. But Zadar no longer has the orb because someone else took the orb from Zadar. I'm a little bit lost on how that all happened, but I guess it happened. I need to re-listen to the beginning of this book already, and it's only been like 5 days. Ish. I don't actually remember how long it's been, but anyway, that was like an interesting thing to me. I was like, oh! So we have 2 pieces, and if they come together, bad. I don't know what we want to do with them. Individually, I don't know what our side wants to do with them, but I know the other side wants to put them together and have bad happen. So there's that. Next. Mr. Wolf had brothers. So we found out that Mr. Wolf had, like, other people who worked with sorcery, and they all had, like, their own tower, and then there were, like, 2 towers over here, and they both destroyed themselves, which is really sad. Rest in peace. But he didn't seem, like, too sad and mournful about them, but there's also Belzadar. As soon as the narrator said Belzadar, I was like, wait, Zadar? Belzadar? Hold on. And then we found out that there is, like, a linkage between them, and then they, like, separated because Zadar's insane and he's doing bad. It's weird. So, that very much stood out to me, but in general, the Veil was, like, all of the scenes inside the Veil, I loved. Like, everything, Garion finding out how to move the rock, adventuring in the towers, the nostalgia that Mr. Wolf feels just being in there. I loved it. So, very, very good. The adorable little colt. Oh my god. The colt is so cute. We haven't seen the colt in a while. But Garion, like, saves a colt in the cave right before they get to the Veil, and the fact that the colt, like, follows him around and, like, gives him, like, pleading eyes all the time, it's so cute. I just want to say that. Every time the colt was in a scene, I was, like, grinning. It's such an adorable image in my mind. Oh my god. Okay, seriously though, that is adorable. Alright, next. Mr. Wolf became a teacher for a bit. Taught Garion how to use his powers. He kind of was, like, grumpy at Garion because he's like, don't just say push. That's lame. Sorcerers are supposed to have style. It's literally what he said. He's just like, don't just say the word. Say a better word. It's supposed to be cool. So that's funny. But he was also grumpy that, like, Garion was an idiot and sunk himself into the ground. Which is kind of a scary thought if you think about it. Just, like, being stuck in the ground and your group being so far away that they can't help you, and having a cult that is a baby and can't understand your thoughts just nuzzling you while you're in the ground. It's a mood. Rip. But in general, all the instruction and, like, teaching Mr. Wolf does, I love when he becomes the just teaching character. He, like, lectures Garion. So, very much like those moments. It happened quite a few times in the Veil, and a few others. I wrote a note here that says cool tree, and I don't remember what tree it's talking about. But it's some cool tree. Shrug. How did Garion not notice the name pattern? I have no idea. Like, Belgarian, Polgara. I mean, Polgara is a little bit different. I thought it was Bulgara for a while, but apparently it's Polgara, and I'm stupid. But, like, Belgarian, Belzadar, Belgarath. This pattern here. So, just saying. Belgarath. Don't know how Garion didn't notice, but he didn't until a point, and then he was like, oh, and then he asked Mr. Wolf about it. He's like, yes, we all had the same prefix in our name. So, there is that. I wrote down a quote here. Pull from the environment around you to fuel your power. Not from me. like he's just like, all right, Garion, just you take You take in the environment around you to fuel your power. Stop taking my power! Just the 180 switch there. Again, the narrator is really good at making that funny. He just sounded so grumpy and alarmed. He's like, don't steal power from me. Rude. Avoid me. It also reminds me of... Oh. I guess it's a microfiction. It's not even a side story, it's a microfiction. It reminds me of a microfiction that has Odin, like the Odin, and a main character, and the main character like takes Odin's power by accident. He doesn't mean to do it, but he can't help it. His magic's just doing it without asking. It reminded me of that, where it's like automatically taking someone else's power, and they're just like, I don't mean to do this. So that scene made me laugh. I love it. It's the way he said, not for me. I already mentioned the, you have to be a sorcerer with style moments, so there is that. Dernick is the man with 2 lives. Don't know what that means. I'm very intrigued. It kind of makes me hopeful that Dernick won't die. I was very terrified Dernick would die. Twice during this book, and also just in the future still. I was actually, like, worried Dernick was going to be the character who dies. Dernick or Silk were, like, the 2 I thought would die. And then, all of a sudden, this old man, which is a whole nother thing with him, is like... Or, no, the twins said this. The twins were like, oh, the man with 2 lives. And Dernick was like, And Garen was like, wait, what? I'm very excited to see what that means. And again, as soon as that reveal happened, it started coming up over and over and over again. There's like 4 people have called him the man with 2 lives now, and I'm just like, 2 lives, you say? We will see. Aunt Pole curses like a sailor during a scene. Like, she like threw all the innocence out the window. She had a mood there. She just let it all out right at his face. And it reached the point where, like, even Barak was like, what? I can't. And just, like, stopped listening to them because it was that level of absurd, cursing, sailor, not innocent comments. It's weird. It's out of nowhere. We obviously don't hear the words. We just know what's happening. We're just like, what is going on? Where is Aunt Pole hiding all of this inside of her? But shrug. I love Aunt Pole's mom, because she like appeared as a spirit of a wolf, which is really cool. And it kind of kicked that one guy's ass. I don't remember his name already. He was like some creature that's really, really, really hard to fight. That was one of the scenes I was actually concerned for the party with. Because that fight had a lot going on. It took a lot of power just to kill this one guy. Which made me really concerned on how they could kill the guys that are causing them problems. But yeah, when they summoned the wolf, which like took all of their power, and the mom like winked at Garion before she disappeared, I was like, ooh, wolf! And then we found out it was the mom. And then Mr. Wolf was like deep in sorrow afterward. He was like so sad. Like the whole day after that summoning happened, I felt so bad for him. Like, I don't actually know anything about Aunt Paul's mom, but Aunt Paul is like, you know as well as I do that she's fine with me summoning her. But you can tell that there's like a hand crushing Mr. Wolf's heart whenever he thinks about the mom. Like, I want to say his wife. I don't actually know if they got married. So, mother of his daughter. I don't know. That really stuck with me, though. I felt really bad for Mr. Wolf. But in the end, he didn't get over it, but he kind of, like, accepted it and moved on. Ool. and Aldur will join Garion when the task begins. So, these are both gods. First of all, these are both gods. That's a whole thing. Second of all, we got to talk to more gods in this book, which is really cool. And we got to see the chamber of the gods where they like all met together, which is also really cool. But moving on, there's this bit where like the party's talking to Ul. They're not like Ul was like arrived and yelled at what's his name? Relg. He yelled at Relg for like not going on this journey or whatever. But aside from that, Ul is like, we will join you when your journey, like when your task begins. I don't know what that means. The idea of the gods like being side by side with Garion when it happens, whatever it is, that's kind of intense. That's like very next level. So will Garion reach the level of God? We will see, I guess. I don't know. It sounds very next level. But then all the conversations with the gods I love. The conversation with Ul was very interesting. Because Ul was like... He like smirked, looked at Sinedra, and then looked at Gary, and then looked back to Sinedra. So, yeah. This would be a good time to say that the character I hate is Sinedra. I hate her. I don't have much explanation, like much I don't feel I have to say why. But I will say that I hate princesses in general, in everything. I don't care if it's Disney. I hate princesses as characters and as people. I hate Sinedra. I hate her. So, the very beginning of the book, it was like following Sinedra for like the first 2 to 3 chapters. I was worried the whole book was going to be following Sinedra. It's not true. It switched back to Garion, like the chapter after that. Praise be, because if we were following Sinedra the entire book, I actually might have gotten a little bit angry. Just a little bit. I really wanted to get back to Garion. Garion's the perspective I care about the most. So, just saying. I do not like Sinedra. Needs to be said. I don't like her. But it's still funny when moments where other people taunt Garion about Sinedra are still funny. Or when Sinedra feels like an idiot when she is being an idiot. Also funny. So. But yeah, I wrote here, I love the gods' subtle, I know something y'all don't, smirk moments, which I basically said earlier. It's just the fact that Ul was like, I know what's happening next. Good luck on your journey. Wink! And then leave. I don't know, I love those moments, I really do. So yeah. I don't remember the context behind this, but at some point Mr. Wolf like cocks his eyebrow. And for some reason I found that really funny. It's along the same lines as the smirk and wink and stuff. Tolish Devotion sucks. That is the entire like world building bit about the land of the Grolems sacrificing people to Asherak. Is Asherak the name? Torak, sorry. I keep doing that. Sacrificing stuff to Torak, or whatever the god of them is. I really struggle with this. Have to like sacrifice people, and so they like buy slaves so that they can sacrifice slaves instead of themselves. But if the slaves run away or they're out of slaves, then they themselves have to run, but they're too dumb to realize to hide, so they like run and usually die, or they get pulled back to be sacrificed, right? And that really sucks. And the other thing is that women aren't sacrificed as long as they're pregnant, so they're constantly getting pregnant just for that reason, so they don't get sacrificed. That sucks. This my entire point here is that sucks, and it hurts that that's like a thing in this world, but also very strong theme there, evidently. But I just wrote that down. It's just that entire like religious thing sucks, and it really woke up Relg a little bit. that maybe not every rule in every religion lines up with his morals, that people should follow their religion. So he learned a little bit after that. That's when Relg really grew, and that's when I started to get attached to Relg, was when that change happened. Next. I did say that. Silk was captured! I was really surprised when Silk was captured. I was like, okay, they've all escaped. Silk is probably just going over to Hatar. Little did I know, Brill captured Silk and was like holding it in front of like someone who really wanted to murder Silk, and I was just like, Silk's gonna get tortured at the very least if he doesn't die. I will say the bit with Relg like stone shaping to find him, I'm gonna call it stone shaping, I'm sorry, was pretty predictable, but still interesting anyway. Also, Silk's just hatred towards stone shaping is also really funny. He hates it. Side comment that I missed earlier, the claustrophobia that Silk and Garion feel, I really like that. Another thing that just adds a little bit to their character, makes them grow a little bit, tells us more about them, and makes them more people than characters. Just the fact that they feel these things. I never actually thought of claustrophobia like that, especially like in a cave. I never thought of like feeling the amount of mass above me. It's an interesting way to look at it, I will say. It made me like think about it. Similarly, I never thought about like the sky is scary because it's just like there, but Relg believes it's scary because it's like infinite, and it's like, it's kind of fair. It is like this like infinite empty that isn't actually empty thing. So, but just a side comment that I like all that. But I think Silk grew and changed the most as a character after the stone shaving, when he was like being captured and stuff. So that was like when I got really attached to him. There's this one scene where like Poe like clings to the other sorcerers a lot. She was clinging to Garion, so Garion couldn't like detach from her, and she was like reprimanding Garion, and then Mr. Wolf was like, Paul, you cling too much. I think that's the problem here. Kind of called her out, but it worked. So I just made that comment because I thought it was interesting that she does things without realizing it. She's a very protective person, so I think it's like her like latent protective nature coming out with stuff like that. Towards the end of the book, we're still in third person, but we started following people less. Usually we're like following like, Garion does this, Garion noticed this. But at the end it kind of became this like third person, like this happened, this happened, this happened kind of thing. It's kind of interesting. I noticed the change barely, not by much, but it was there. I'm a little bit confused about the fight between Brill and Silk. I don't know why they didn't use weapons. Brill is supposed to be this assassin with like crazy, scary, dangerous, poisonous, triangular throwing knife things and stuff like that, but their fight was like kind of like brawling. And I'm also a little bit surprised that Silk won by himself, like single-handedly, just with like a toss. Even though Silk is kind of a small person as I understand it, I don't actually know how big Brill is, but I know Silk is small. So that fight, I was a little bit confused on how and why, but it's still interesting. And the comedy afterward with like the... Last I saw, Brill was trying to learn how to fly, and Mr. Wolf was like, really? Fly? Shrug. And then Silk gave a little bit more context so you get the joke. He's like, he doesn't have much longer to like get to learn how to do it though. And Mr. Wolf is like, oh. And then they hear like a dun dun, and Silk is like, does bouncing count? And Mr. Wolf is like, I don't believe so. And he's like smirking. He's like, we got him, kind of thing. It is funny. I don't know if Brill's dead. I would not be shocked if he isn't dead, even though he fell a long ways and bounced, apparently. I would not be shocked if he lived somehow magically. I do believe in if somebody doesn't die off screen. Wait, if someone dies off screen, then they're still alive. I got that thinking from Dresden. Dresden Files taught me if a villain doesn't die on screen, they're alive. This one, they might be dead. For all I know, but I'm just gonna go on assuming they're alive and just really, really, really hurt. So, will we see Brill again? Maybe. Still a question mark. I wrote a side comment here that I wonder how much Garion has grown. Like, we know he's, like, got a, like, beard and stuff now, but, like, physically, how much, like, taller, or, like, is he muscular at all, or that stuff. He's living a rough life right now. He's hiking up mountains, so he at least has some leg in there somewhere. I'm kind of wondering how he's growing. Like, how old is he at this point? I know he started as a teenager, but now he's mid-teens, maybe? I'm curious what stage of growth he's at. He did get called out for being young at the end, but that was by a really, really old man, so shrug. I felt really bad that Garion looked at the sacrifices. Also, oof, another thing that's just... This book was a lot more, like, very open to the dark or gory themes, so very noticeable. And I feel bad that Garion is, like, experiencing all that for the very first time. Those were all the notes. Do I have anything else I would like to add? I know I do. I have one more thing I was going to say, and I can't remember. Here we go. Oh, yeah. First of all, the orb. We got to see the orb, and, like, it was, like, humming or, like, singing in the heads of Belgarath and Polgara and Belgarion. Like, they could, like, sense the orb was nearby. There's, like, really strong feeling. And there's also the innocent boy. Also very interesting. I'm intrigued about how the innocent boy comes up in the next book. Very interesting. But the fact that the bad guy was like, don't have this happen, be gone, and then was like, fuck. Like, the curse word moment he has there, where he's just like, I didn't mean it. It's a bit too late, buddy. He killed himself by accident. I did not expect that coming. I was worried about the fight between Mr. Wolf and that guy. I was concerned. Didn't know how it turned out. I thought Garion would have to step in, but then Aunt Paul was like, Garion, if you step in, you'll kill them both. And I was like, what is going to happen here? And then the boy is just like, have an orb. And the idiot was just like, be gone. And then he's like, and we got to see him, like, just, like, blow himself up, literally, which also made Mr. Wolf half unconscious while the entire building's falling down. And that's where the book ended. Just right after the book was, like, the building was falling down, they got all the crew, and they need to go down and retrieve the slave woman. End of book. So, very interesting with how that fight turned out. Kinda cliffhangery, though. Gotta say, we actually haven't seen Hattar in a while. He, like, went to alert people or something like that. So, need to see Hattar again. I do really like Hattar. Just like that he likes horses. It's cool. He's like the horse lord or something like that, if I remember correctly. King of the land of the horses. That's like his thing, while Dernick is the man of two lives. I really want to know more about that. I really, really want to know more about that. I'm still really curious about, like, Aunt Paul's role. I'm really curious if Mr. Wolf will die, if Aunt Paul will die, if Aunt Paul has some weird things happen to her, because there's been some implications of that, but I think those are the other prophecy and not this prophecy. But there are some weird implications to Aunt Paul and the other prophecy. Aunt Paul gets a lot of weird comments. She's really good at dealing with them. She gets a lot of weird comments. I just want to add that. It goes with the lust theme that I talked about. Oh no, yawn. That's a sign. Alright. I guess I'll end it here. End of spoiler section, that is. The next book, I don't actually know what the name of the next book is. Let's look at it together. The Belgariad. Belgarian comes. Here we go. Book 4. Nope, that's not 4. 4, here we are, is Castle of Wizardry. There we go. I still don't actually know the difference between a magician and a sorcerer, even though I just read a fight between a magician and a sorcerer. So, I kind of feel bad. I'm sure that distinction will come up soon, though. But yeah, the name of the next book, Castle of Wizardry. And then the last book is Enchanter's Endgame. We're in the endgame now, boys. Not yet. Soon. These are both longer, though. This one is 15 hours. The longest by far, so far. And then the last one's 14 hours. This last one was 12, so I'm definitely going to feel that difference for sure. But yeah, I plan to continue with this series until it's over. I know I was talking about maybe doing half Powder Mage, half Belgariad, but this Belgariad has been going fast enough, and my exam is almost over, so I'm about to, like, double speed. When this exam is over, and when the hardest part of rocket engineering is over, I'm just going to be soaring through some books. So I decided to just stick with Belgariad, because I can listen to it while I'm walking around, while I'm eating in the dining hall, while I'm on the bus. And then I will return to Powder Mage right after. Hopefully, it will be by the end of the year. It shouldn't take more than a month, ever. But if it does end up more than a month, just know it won't be the whole year. At the very least, Thanksgiving break. I mean, come on. So, there we are. And I don't have any new books. So, that should cover everything. Powder Mage comes, eventually, after Belgariad. And then a return to Journeyer. And after that, we will see. I have a lot of dice to roll. Smirk, 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 smirk. Alright. Bye-bye.